Hello, welcome to Politically High Tech with your host Elias. This episode's entertainment, if you want to call it that, or infotainment, whatever you frame it, it doesn't matter to me as long as you're engaged and paying attention, or cursing me out, through the other side, or loving me, which would be better. But I don't always expect that as a person with a realist and pragmatic mindset. But it's okay. You're tuning in. That's all I care about. So this episode's entertainment slash guest is going to be Anne Wiley. And I'm just going to say right now, this is not her first time writing a book. Okay, if you're going to think that, you'll be thoroughly debunked. Just check her website. She wrote several books. There's multiple genres, by the way, so she's not one trick pony. There's one comedy, one a romance. This one's more scientifically political, if that makes sense to you. She'll break that down further. It's her book, not mine. I am just a consumer, just like you, especially when you get the book, all right? So before we do that, before we get to all that good stuff, I want my audiences to get an idea of who you are, Anne Wiley. And just introduce who you are to my listeners and viewers. Who the heck is Anne Wiley? Who is this lovely lady?
Well, first of all, thank you, Elias, for having me on. I have a little bit of a cold, so forgive my voice. But thank you for having me on and for talking to me about this because it is kind of an unusual book, and I am really excited to share about it. But about me, I am the 11th of 12 children. And I grew up, I was born on the West Coast in Washington State and then moved to the Midwest when I was in junior high, and went to high school and college here in the Midwest and then moved back to Portland, Oregon for 35 years where we had our kids and kind of had our lives. And now I'm back in the Midwest. We have elderly parents, so we're taking care of them right now. My background is in business, believe it or not. So I have I have an MBA degree in accounting. So I have a lot of background in lots of different businesses. I've worked in high tech. I've worked in banking. I've worked in basically chicken processing. That was my first job out of school, at a manufacturing plant. So I learned a lot in all of these different areas. But one thing that I've always wanted to know through all my life is how we fit in the world. How do we make sense in the world? Why? I learned about evolution really early, even though I went to Catholic school. I don't know how that happened, but I did. And ever since, I'm trying to figure out how humans and animals fit and why we're the same and why we're different. And everything I've ever read in life has sort of I put into two buckets, like, yep, this makes sense, or no, that just doesn't make sense. And in 1990, I read a book by Michael Rothschild called Bionomics. And he made the effort of putting biological systems and economic systems in line together. Oh my gosh, it made so much sense. But I came away from that book thinking that, well, if economic systems link up to biological systems, shouldn't humans link up to biological systems? And yet I kind of expected somebody to write this book in like the next 2 years after that, which was like in the 1990s, and nobody ever did. But that's where I got hung up for years and years and years, thinking about how we actually fit, because we do fit, but I just didn't understand why until I kind of wrestled it into what I think makes sense and came up with my theory of the human ecosystem, which I call the idiosphere. So that's the bio.
Yep. You heard we gonna get a little deeper to what the heck does she mean by idiosphere? What is this weird idea? What is she talking about? She's trying to be the next Charles Darwin? Well, that's one of her influence, by the way. I looked that up. And I was already making those connections right away, especially the competition, survival of the fittest, the best genetics, survives and you multiply and all of that good stuff. But that's the one, that's the only science book that I read that actually fascinated me. Because this is why certain animals, especially those who adapt or stronger, they get to, thrive and multiply. And while the ones that don't, well, they're eventually washed away.
Right.
That's just putting it very nicely.
Yes. Well, I would say that if Charles Darwin knew about cells and genetics, he would have come up with the theory I came up with. In fact, when he wrote The Descent of Man, he wrote that, you know, people inherited their values, like goodness and morality. We would inherit those just like we would inherit genes because, or inherit every other trait. And because he didn't understand about cells and he didn't understand how it all worked. And so his assumption was that as time went on, humans would become more and more and more moral. Well, that didn't happen because it doesn't work that way. But I'm convinced that if Charles Darwin knew about DNA and RNA, he would have figured out how humans work. But the idea sphere is, in fact, the extension of what he would have come up with, I think. And it's the human ecosystem. And if you look at how the natural system works, at the base of every life form is DNA. And the DNA is just your set of instructions that allow you to live. And it's been honed after billions and billions of years of evolution. So when you're born, you have a set of genes that allow you to live. But inside your DNA is inside these cells, and your body is made up of 35 trillion cells. You're not a body, you're a thing made of 35 trillion cells. And that's a very important concept. The only living thing in this world is cells, and each cell has its DNA, and in your body, they're all the same. So that means your body has all the same instructions, so they can all work together. And then from a cell, we've created tissues and organs and then bodies. Well, that same structure holds true for humans, but at the base of our humanity and our idea sphere is not DNA, but it's a human idea. Humans can create ideas, and they are not physical, but they are the things that we can then use to put into some form that then they have a life of their own. For instance, I can write a book about ideas. And then once that book is out in the world, other people can use that book to extend the thinking about that concept. Just like I used Charles Darwin's book about evolution, The Origin of Species, to write my book. So things, once we have ideas and we can put them into a form outside our bodies, they have a life of their own. No other animal can do this. We are the only ones. A few animals can make nests, but they can't make like a skyscraper, but we can make all kinds of different things. And not only that, but once we learn to talk, we learn to write, and then we learn to create radio, and then we learn to create TV, and then we have computers. That's a string of evolution of ideas about communicating that has a life of its own that people then tap into and create and become part of. So what I'm saying is that based on ideas, our people are like cells in the body. They implement those ideas. And our institutions are groups of people who implement ideas. And societies are groups of people who coexist and live together. So the structures are the same, but they work on something different. One starts with DNA and one starts with an idea.
You hear, this is why this is going to be scientific and political. She's already creating that bridge for you, at least that foundation, the bridge.
Right.
Run on it, because I don't know if I'm going to strengthen it or I'm going to blow it up. And of course, it's metaphorical. I'll say, that is a terrorist for blowing up the bridge. Oh, be quiet. You're not paying attention. You're just finding any little reason just to click me and just shame me, make me look crazy, which
Go
is
for
fine. Look, which is fine. You just bring me more audience. Okay? That's all. It works the opposite, especially if you're doing good. It'll translate eventually. Hopefully, they will pick up the good part of the idea sphere. And I love how you break that down, because not all ideas are good. We know that.
Well, and that's the point. Whereas in nature, the cell has no choice but to follow the DNA instructions. We as humans, we don't work the same way. We have what I call the human superpower is choice. And so we get to choose which ideas we want to follow. They don't have to be good. They don't have to be bad. An idea lives because it's accepted, not because it's good or bad or because it's right or wrong. So we have ideas that have come from thousands and thousands of years ago, like religion, where it's not necessarily true, but it was accepted. And because it was accepted, it still exists today. And this is something that makes humans amazing and dangerous, because we can implement very bad ideas for many, many years and not even know they're bad, and this is what makes human civilization a very much a double-edged sword, in my view.
Oh yeah, no, it is, and I actually agree with that because I always consider humans they're intelligently wacky people. Just to put it nicely,
Right,
because let's see what good ideas. Computers, we could store large information there. We could
right,
document history or even make it engaging with
right,
CGI and all of that, And,
right,
of
right,
course, we can add a little, we add some bluff in there. Not all history is true. We add some bluff in there to make the story
right,
interesting. So I'm mixing the good and the bad ideas here. Do I believe history should be documented? Of course, it's a very good tool because no animal could document. A dog could never
right.
document, or find a lineage of his or her own family. No,
No,
the
no,
human could do
no.
that for the dog,
Yeah, yeah.
but the
We can
dog can't
do
do
it.
that for itself. Yeah, we could do that, but
No, we can
not
do
the
it.
dog. Yeah.
Yeah. And here's the really interesting thing about humans is we have we are born with absolutely zero ideas. None whatsoever, which means that, when you're a person, when you're born, you have your 100% of your DNA and your physical construction there, ready to go. So you're a full person in the ecosystem, but you have zero ideas, which means that everything you learn to become part of the idea sphere is given to you by others and then learned on your own as as you get old enough, when you finally learn the language and learn how to think, you start developing your own ways to get information, right? So we never get a full picture. And I think this is one of the reasons why we're so divided today, is there's so much information out there, and people can choose to select and self-select little bits of information and parts of information, and they can have completely different viewpoints about how the world works or how it ought to work. And this is, I think, getting to be a really big problem because we don't have a commonality. When we had less information available to us back in the day, when there was newspapers and maybe some magazines and books, and we had teachers teaching in schoolhouses everywhere, people kind of got the same ideas, but not today. We are just exploded with information. And I think there's so much, I don't even think we're aware that we are siloed in our limited idea sets that make it really hard to be unified people. And one of the things that I want to address and I do address in my book, is how do we come up with a way to unify all people in one basic idea? Like cells, living things, they all are designed to survive. They are instructed to survive. That's what their DNA, and they didn't get instructed by like teaching. It's just that only survivors ever survive. All the cells in the animals that didn't quite work in the environment have died out. And what we're left with is survival. So survival is the thing that life does. But we are humans. We get to choose. And we have to choose our goals. We don't have to choose survival. We can choose money. We can choose time. We can choose being a good painter. We can choose, all kinds of different things. But we have to choose. And that is something very different than life forms before us.
So let me see. I summarize all this, and feel free to chime in and correct because I want to make sure I understand
Okay.
your idea all very well. So
Okay.
DNA, very binary. If it doesn't do what is instructed, it dies. So if it does what it's told, it lives. It's very
Right.
simple. But the idea sphere, there's so much ways a human can survive and die. Let's be quite
Right.
honest.
Right.
So there's a lot more. I hate to use this, but I'm going to use it anyways. 50 shades of gray of complexity compared to DNA, but
Absolutely.
DNA is black and white. You
Right.
win, you lose,
Relatively
you
speaking,
survive,
yes.
you
Yes.
survive, you
And
die. While the human, also,
yeah.
I could create, I don't know. Let me just use a ridiculous example, just for ideas for. I don't know. I could create a dress for cisgender men with skirts and all that.
Hmm.
I could actually do that. It's all this for you. Oh no, but that's for a woman. No, 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 it's for you, sir. Here, go wear this dress. Look, if he wears it, that's up to him. I really don't care. If he wants to
Right.
do drag, that's his lifestyle. As long as he's not
Hmm.
harming anybody, and you do point out
Right.
very clearly.
Right.
That's an important part. I want to make sure the listeners and viewers understand, as long as it's not harming anybody. That part I perfectly agree with. You're not getting an argument out of
Right.
me unless it's like the last resort self-defense. That's probably like the
Right.
only exception.
Right.
Otherwise,
Right.
I'm with you. I'm with you completely.
Well, and
You
even
know,
your body has an army, right?
yeah.
That protects it from invaders. So self-defense is an allowable thing. But you make a really good point, which is, and I said this thing, is there an idea in which we could all as humans agree on that is at the very foundation upon which we live, the foundation of our idea sphere that would allow us to live, coexist peacefully? And what I think is that you have to take the two main things that nature does. One is they work together. So well, I should say it this way. They allow each of their cells to do their jobs without interference, and they can't harm each other. Those are the only rules. So, and humans have the superpower of choice. So, what I came up with is the main idea that humans all across the world should be able to agree on is that you should be able to do what you want, maximize your choice, but you can never harm anybody else in the meantime. So, when you form a government that is for the good of the people, right? And the good of the people you're always trying to maximize their choices and minimize harm. So you would make laws that would, where there's potential harm, you would regulate and make laws. Where there's no harm, you would allow that behavior to go. So if you look at, I look at like gay marriage. It's like gay marriage doesn't hurt anybody. I mean, it's two people getting married. It doesn't hurt anybody. So that should be allowed. Absolutely. Um, Abortion is the one that's a little more tricky because up until viability, that fetus can't survive without the mom. So it becomes the mom's choice. After viability, where a fetus can survive, then there's a dual choice, and laws should reflect those two realities. And I would say that, in my opinion, you would maximize the choice of the woman before viability and maximize the choice of both after viability. But that's how I see the world, where you maximize choice for people but minimize harm.
Well, I know some of you listeners of yours are pretty upset with that comment. There's a comment section. It's public therapy. Express
Yeah,
your opinions. You're going to be criticized or you might be praised.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So there's a comment section. Express it. Express it. Look, people could say things that you don't like. Okay.
Yep.
There's a lot of
Yep.
ideas I don't like, but I
Right.
tolerate. It's called being a grown up. Okay.
Right. Right.
You
Right.
don't have to like them. You have to say, "Oh, Aunt Riley's a hero. She's my savior." No,
Nope.
no, none of that fake crap. Okay,
No.
just
No.
if you're gonna disagree, at least be intelligent or add some wit into it.
Sure.
That's why I recommend. But this is for you, the listeners and viewers. There's a comment section if you want to express your frustration. Go crazy.
Yes.
I don't
Please.
cancel you.
Right.
YouTube might. You blame YouTube, not me, because I
Yeah.
believe in First Amendment. Okay, as much as
Right.
with the exception of obviously death threats and all that other stuff.
Well, right, because those I mean, to my point, those pass into the harm level. Again, what we're trying to do is allow people to live their lives the way they choose to without harming others. And there's a lot of places where I'm pretty controversial. One other place I believe is that because guns have the potential to harm people, they need to be regulated. Now, you can regulate them in many ways. One way you can do it is in the private sector by just having people get insurance for their gun. And as soon as you put insurance is designed to assess risk in a marketplace, right? And a higher risk is a higher price, right? That's what you would do. So if you're a gun owner and you have maybe a teenage children at home who are in the hormonal years, the insurance company may say, you got to lock those up. If you don't lock those guns up, your premium goes sky high. That's a market way to regulate guns. So there are also, you can ban guns, which I don't agree with, because when you ban guns, all you do is create a black market, and that doesn't really do anything. So, you got to be smart about what you're trying to do, which is prevent the harm. You don't really want people not to have guns. You want to not have shootings of children. That's what we're trying to get to. So you have to figure out the right tools to use to make sure that you're allowing people to have guns, but preventing that potential for harm of innocent people. And those things are hard. There's no question that they're very hard problems to solve. But I think this approach might be helpful in dealing with some of these problems.
The insurance companies are gonna love you right now. I said, yeah, especially the gun insurance company. They're gonna say, yeah, hey, more money, more money, more money.
And at the same time, I'm also a believer in taking insurance, health insurance away, except for only catastrophic health insurance, and taking it away from all the well-being care, because we've put so much profit in the system and we are not handling it. So it's not a one size fits all. In some cases, insurance is a great thing. It's great for catastrophic healthcare, where you have people who are dealing with heart failure or strokes or cancer. Then you have a wide pool of people who pay into the insurance pool, but only a few people get it. But right now, our pools are so wide because we're covering every little thing, a cough or a cold, or whatever. But what you do instead, I would say, is that the government says, okay, what we're going to do, Americans, we're going to give you a $10,000 bank account that is set aside for wellness care and for your normal health care. You don't have to use the account, but what you have to do is you use it to pay cash to your doctors, and you go and call your doctor and you see which one's going to give you the better deal. You don't think prices will go down? Prices will go down, because everybody is playing with cash that they have to be careful for. And whatever cash they don't use, they get to carry over for the next year. These are kinds of ideas that look about how do you give people health care, but don't incent the profit making that is everywhere in the system, which needs to be reduced.
I don't know what healthcare reform. It needs to be done. It needs to be done like decades ago, in my opinion.
Yes.
But I want to just get back to the gun thing, because
Okay.
no, just real quick, because I think I want to add a few things. I think for gun owners too, they should be a mandatory training and education on how to use guns.
And of course, if you had insurance, if you had mandatory training, your premium goes down. If you refuse the training, your premium goes up. See, it's a very easy vehicle to basically price the risk into the existence of a gun in the world.
So don't worry, white ringers, your guns are not being taken away. So I don't take away my gun. I'm very responsible.
No,
You're
I
fine.
don't want to. And I talked to actually a lot of gun owners who are like, oh, I would buy insurance, and then I've talked to some who are like, nope, it's my right. I don't want to buy insurance. I'm like, well, we have to do something. I don't want to take your gun away. I just want to price risk into the market some way. That's just one theory.
Yeah, no, I think, nothing is good. These are good ideas. Politicians, hope you listen. I don't care if you're the left, right, or even independent or some crazy third party. Take this idea, put it to the campaign somewhere. Here's some ideas. I don't even care if you take it. Don't even give me credit. I just want good ideas to be spread out. And then now I want to transition to the healthcare. I think you said some interesting things about healthcare as well, because I think it definitely needs to be reformed. I think it's too much money and we gain very little great impact from it. Okay, we pay more than an average developed nation, and they're getting better care, which is horrendous because it's for profit. The main thing is profit. That's the priority, not people, not
Right,
for health. So,
right, right. And not
I
only that, but
yeah.
because hospitals are nonprofits, a lot of for-profit companies are buying them up and shielding their income or their profits inside them so that they don't get covered or so that they get protected from taxation, which is kind of a rotten thing to do, but that's what they do. So there are so many areas. I have to write up a whole thing on healthcare, but my ideas are sort of just preliminary and sort of, you know, um, like I said, the first one is to remove the insurance part only for the catastrophic part of healthcare where you need to assess your risk of getting these diseases and covering people for the risk. That's what insurance is for. This other part, it should be removed, and all of these, especially the middlemen from, there's pharmacies, and then there's a lot of these middle distributors who make so much profit that I think we should really raise the tax rates on highly profitable companies, so that there's no incentive for them to I don't know, just to at least to put the money back into the system, I think, if nothing else. But it's a very difficult system. I think the way you do it right now is to put competition back into the wellness part of it and make doctors, make pharmacies, make pharmaceuticals compete for your business. If I have a cold, I go to the doctor and I say, how much are you going to charge me for a visit? And they say, well, we have to charge your insurance. No, 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 no. How much are you going to charge me? I'm going to come in and pay out of my government funded cash. How much are you going to charge? Is it going to be the $250 that you now they charge? No, it's going to be 50 because they know I can go to the next guy over and compete and they don't have to do any paperwork. They don't have to do anything. Same thing. Which medicine do you want? Which one can you get for the good price? Who's going to compete? That's where you need to do it. It's not, it's, we have to squeeze the profits out of the system that the insurance companies are inflating. And these insurance companies are putting doctor groups together where they're these big groups that then they don't compete with each other. This is the wrong way to do healthcare. And we see it in low quality care at very high prices.
Oh, and I absolutely agree. You're not getting an argument from me on that one. I mean, I've leaned further left on general when it comes to healthcare because just about how profiting and all this privatizing, I think
Yeah,
it does damage. I think for schools, it's definitely better. I will agree with that. For school thing, real quick, I'll say privatizing competition schools. I think that there is more incentive for that, in my opinion. But the privatization of hospitals, all that, it's the results have not been great,
right.
and especially the pandemic just revealed how screwed up
Yeah,
the
yeah,
healthcare system is
right,
across the country. There's
right,
there's no more dramatics. We have
right.
evidence, and I just
Uh-huh.
hope people could get together. Republicans, you hear a little bit of your good idea, free market competition right there, free market with the government dollar. Come on. So you got to at least
Right,
agree with some of it. I want the moderates,
right.
at least the moderate Republicans, to join in this one. All
Yeah.
right.
Well, yeah, I think, again, the idea is how do you maximize the choice of people while minimizing the harm, or in this case, getting them the best health care? That is the way you minimize harm here, you know. And each problem has a different set of characteristics, and so the solutions are going to look different. For instance, you mentioned education. So to me, education right now is government run and owned. And to me, I think that is a very bad way to do education because education is the key for people to get the ideas so that they can live in the idea sphere, right? And what we need to do is make sure that right now, I think we do a lot of um, we actually do less because we don't compete. You know, I think if teachers are the experts on what works in the school, and what I think we should do is the government should mandate the sort of things that they want to accomplish. That we want kids to learn civics, which I think is really important because that's how we learn to coexist, but also, and not just reading and writing arithmetic, but yeah, maybe we want to learn how to coexist together. There's a whole bunch of things we should learn. The government's job, as in any coordinating system, is to tell you what the rules are and to enforce those rules. But they don't, what they do, like that's what a body does. When you have your 35 trillion cells in your body, it's run by your brain and your neural system. And the brain says basically, you guys get to do what you want, but you can't hurt each other and you have to do your job, right? And your 35 trillion cells work together to keep you going every day. That's pretty impressive. Well, that's what our government should be run like. We should say, here's what you need to do, go do it. And then there's a feedback loop that says, here's what works and here's what doesn't, but here's what we should keep doing. And you strive to get better and better and better. It's a continuous improvement loop. But instead of the government mandating it, they just get bureaucratic and sluggish. And that doesn't help us educate people. So it again, I'm like more of a left leaner in how I perceive things, but to me, this is where I think we're losing our children because we're not letting the experts educate them. But it's not about having religion in schools necessarily. It's about teaching robustly what the choices are that people need to be that kids need to know is available to them. We should teach them about all the different things. There's gardening and engineering and shop and electronics, as well as cooking and sewing, boys and girls, it doesn't matter. All of these things are information that children then put together, and they can create patterns and they can create the best adult they're going to be. And that's what I think our society should be doing.
Yeah, I would like to add this. It's a great idea. I just want to add more into it. Definitely budgeting and all that, especially getting to adulthood. Definitely add some, I don't know, life classes or something.
Right.
I don't know what grade you want to start. That's where the debate gets interesting. I will
Yeah.
go as far to say at least, at minimum, I'll put it was probably 11th grade. Maybe even sooner. We could debate sooner. I disagree with later, but
Well, I think that actually learning how to live in the idiosphere should start at preschool and go all the way through 12th grade. But the level at which you teach will change as children get older. So you might not touch on government until they're maybe in 5th or 6th grade, because that's not when it is. But you can still talk about civility, about not harming each other. What does it mean not to harm each other? When you call somebody a bad name, is that harm? What happens? How do we deal with these things? And if you teach these kids from a young age how to think about these things and deal with them, I think we will have better adults. And not only that, but if we're all sort of learning these same not ideals, but these same ideas, then we will have a shared foundation upon which to relate to each other.
yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I don't, to me, I see it's a moderate position because it's right leaning in the sense that you said the foundation. That's where Republicans
Right.
always want to defend the foundation. There's some conservatism in there, but the how is probably a little, definitely more on the left thing, how you take care of the nuances. That's how I always
Right.
describe both parties. As far as more
Right.
like defending the foundation, the left is more about how they deal with the nuances and the details. That's how they both
Right.
generally think. And I give a shout out to Michael
Right.
Anderson right there. He's a great political analysis, and I follow him. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
follow the CNNs and the Fox News, those crazy people. They want to they want you to go mad. That's their bad ideas for you. Stop paying attention to those folks. Okay. But anyways, I want to get back to the school thing. I like what you said. Actually, I'm gonna take what you said. You see, this is me being molding, taking better ideas. Okay, I
Okay.
like ideas. Not about ego.
Mm-hmm.
If it's about my ego, I can just throw her out and not care. Not even have this interview.
Okay.
Okay, forget this interview. Okay, if I want to please my ego, forget this interview. This interview never existed. Okay,
Okay.
but I'm about ideas. Okay, I like
Okay.
ideas, good ideas, and I like how you break it down. At different stages, they learn about life. I think that's brilliant. That's better than
Right.
what I could come up with. If it was ego driven, I was like, Anna's crazy. She don't know what she's talking about. These kids are not going to learn. They're stupid. That's ego driven in response.
Right.
Fine,
Right.
that's a good idea. We can
Yeah.
add, civility for the little ones, and then we add government. We add piece by piece as they age.
Right.
That's That's a
Right.
good idea. That's a very good
Right.
idea. Because,
Right.
listen, to your point, I think you did mention this into this, and at least indirectly, we're more siloed and fractured, even within families, are more siloed and
Hmm.
fractured. And this is why the division is happening. I mean,
Right.
let's just, I'm going to throw a crazy scenario, an alternative
Okay.
universe, me and you were related, right? We're brothers and sisters, but we don't really talk to each other. I'm busy playing my video game, my game console. You're busy watching, I'm going to use a female stereotype. You're watching, love romance on TV.
Okay. Got it. Got it.
So we're silent, whatever. We don't really talk. We don't even interact, even though mom and dad has to drag us for dinner. Eyes roll. I
Right.
hate doing that idea because I love being in my own little world.
Right.
You love being in your little world. And we don't really talk. We just continue to be with our smartphones. You
Right.
continue to watch your program through the smartphone. I continue to watch mine. And the parents there are a bit like either
They're busy,
quiet.
right?
Yeah.
They're busy.
Even, yeah,
Yeah.
that's even better. Yeah, they're busy. They don't even pay attention. So I think all this busyness, fast pace, being addicted to the screens, I think played a
Yep.
major role into that because we just have too much access to information. But what we are lacking access to is wisdom, critical thinking,
Right. Right.
and he did touch a piece on social media, which I think it was actually interesting.
Uh-huh.
Unless you want to get a little bit into that, that's entirely up
Sure.
to you. But I'm gonna just say that I think social media is both, I say, a double-edged sword. It's great for getting
Yes.
messages really, really quick, the fastest, most
Hmm.
engaging way possible.
Hmm.
However, misinformation spreads very, very quickly, and even
Right.
bad ideas could
Oh,
be spread very,
absolutely.
very
It's a
quickly.
perfectly great vehicle for that. Yeah.
So, for example, I'm going to criticize TikTok, even though I became more sort of, I say, yeah, I tolerate TikTok. I think TikTok should be in the market because
Hmm.
it's a choice. And look, we know, Chinese spying on us and all that. People got to learn how to be responsible. We can't be baby in the middle of that. Before I had the opposite position. I thought it should be totally banned because Chinese are spying on us. But if the market loves it, I mean, and it does
Hmm.
help small business. See, that's the good part. One of them
Right.
convinced me, changed my mind on that. He proved statistics that TikTok was actually helping small business. And I was like, yeah, that's my heart. Oh, you got me good there. You got me right there. Dang it. Then my mind was changed. Before I was agreeing with anyone who says ban TikTok. Basically, I would ban TikTok. You see,
Right.
libertarians, your problem is you don't know how to convince me. You sound crazy when you talk sometimes.
Okay.
Anything should be allowed. Okay,
Yeah.
so pornography should be allowed on children's TV? I don't think so.
Right. Right. Right.
That one I would argue. I'm not even a parent, but I do have experience taking care of kids. Just I used to help my mom, help with the daycare center. So
Right.
I
Yeah.
know what's that about. But so I was gonna say, that's the problem. That's the problem with the libertarians. They some of them just sound crazy. They say, "Oh, let anything be." No, 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 don't let anything
Well,
be. Okay,
the
so let
problem.
anything be
Yeah.
means like, okay, I'll just go to Ann Riley's house and go and shoot her. You just said
Yeah.
let anything be. You just said
Yeah.
that. You just said that. All right.
Yeah.
Or Ann Riley could just come up with a rocket launcher and shoot down a government building. Yeah, great.
Yeah, I'd probably make it be a dud. I'm so capable technologically. But no, I think that's what you're making the point is we have all of these innovations and humans are amazing at innovation, but we also run fast before we know the consequences. And I think there are some huge consequences to our children, like just like you say in the example where these kids, I mean, they're growing up with screens. Now, you've grown up probably with screens. I didn't. I didn't get, I mean, internet didn't come into being until my kids were in high school. So I've lived a full life of reading and critical thinking and two channels on TV and, you know, three channels on the radio that everybody played at the beach. You could hear it all over because it was only one channel. You know, that's how I grew up. But so I really had a chance to see how it changes. And like you said, you would use the word fractures people into their areas, which is on one hand, you want kids to be able to find out what's of interest to them and pursue it. But on the other hand, you want them to have a basis of information, a foundation of information, so that when they make those choices, they're good choices for them and that they feel they're good choices for them. And sometimes we just haven't hit that. I don't even think we're addressing that issue right now. But and there's, to your solution about what do we do when we do it, we put the toys down and chat and start asking each other questions and start talking. And that's going to require people to understand why that would be useful to do. And if a family isn't going to see that as useful, they're not going to do it, right?
Yeah,
And
unfortunately.
so part of what I'm trying to do is get people to understand why creating ideas and being knowledgeable about the world is so useful to themselves and to their future. And it doesn't disinclude, it doesn't exclude social media. It puts it in its proper place. I mean, I use social media, but it doesn't run me. I run it. I drive my life. I drive the parts of my life. They don't drive me. And that's the distinguishing characteristic of a person who creates their ability to think in the world and to create their ideas and choose which ones to live by. So go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, it's good. It's good. You say a lot of valuable stuff. That's why I just let you keep going and going and
Oh,
going. And I don't want to interrupt because it's good. It's great stuff. I
okay.
want to make sure people are listening to you.
Okay.
I'm just gonna add a little bit of things. Me, I remember I was at the tail end of not having a screen. I'll say by grade school, computer, few channels. I was at that tail end of it. By the time I hit to middle school, definitely more screens, computers got better. 10 channels became 100 channels.
Right,
I
right,
saw as I went to different school stages, I saw technology advance. That's how I say my life
right,
is. High school is when I started seeing heavy screening.
right,
Um,
right.
when I was of course smaller, very little screens.
Yeah.
Very little. We just
When,
use it as a
when,
call, all that.
yeah, when did you have phones that became, like when everybody goes into class and sits down, they open up their phones and look at their phones? Was that something that happened in high school for you? Or was that still too early?
I would say, yeah. I would say, yeah, it was high school that started happening. It was definitely
Okay.
high school because middle school, that was very rare. It was like the richest, most spoiled people would have it only because you're like, oh, and
Right.
then when we were kids, that was definitely not allowed. So,
Yeah.
I
How
mean,
do
my
you
kids like,
think,
yeah,
yeah, in high school, how do you think that changed the culture of you and your friends and your school? Did it change it at all? Or can you
um,
tell?
I mean, no, I could easily tell because we was definitely more distracted with the screens. We had more access to entertainment, and we would sneak in, watching some or even
Yeah.
pornographic stuff. I'm just being brutally honest.
Right.
And
Right.
we was
Sure.
definitely more we was definitely more distracted. We wasn't paying attention to school as much. I mean, me, I tried to discipline myself,
Mhm.
but being disciplined became harder for me personally.
Right.
And personally, it became
Right.
hard because entertainment was just becoming more ubiquitous.
Right.
Right, I could
Right.
just pull out just a phone. Even though phones were kind of limited, it was still at that ending of cell phone, very beginning of smartphone stages. Sidekick was a thing. Oh
Right.
yes, I'm aging myself. Sidekick. Remember those little things? Yeah, that was like the Sidekick. Yeah, that's when of course, internet was more limited. The same was far more limited, but
Right.
just I started seeing the distraction kicked in, and people was talking to each other less, and they was talking to people who they don't know, and yet they much further away. They were more interested in them than
Hmm.
someone who was close to them. These
Yeah.
problems were starting to creep in, but I was at the
Right.
beginning, like high school is like that beginning of that transition when I started to notice that.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Well,
and
what
it
do you
made it
think
hard, and it
then?
was harder for the
Yeah.
teacher too, to try to
Sure.
wrangle attention, all that. So,
Right. And it's hard enough in high school, I think, with, but do you think the current bans and phone use in high schools is a good thing?
yeah. I try not to agree with ban of anything because what if they need to make that emergency phone call and then,
Right.
it could be the
Right.
mom or family member that's either real sick or even worse, dead, God
Right.
forbid.
Right.
And I look, it's very hard. I want to say yes. I'm very mixed. I just think I
Well,
don't know.
this is the
It's a
way I
hard.
would ask the
Yeah.
question is where is the harm occurring at school with social media and your phones. It's this distraction, right? It's so the kids are getting a double negative whammy. They get one, they're distracted with this stuff, and two, they're not paying attention to the stuff they should learn, right? So that is a harm for their future. And so if you say it's not like you never get a phone, you get a phone when you get out of school, you get a phone at lunchtime or something, whatever. But what school is saying is, while you're here, we need your attention. And so we're going to do this. To me, that is a sensible approach. Now, there are vehicles by which emergency calls can be made. Obviously, the way they used to be made when I was a kid, we got a phone call to school and somebody would bring down the slip or call, Susie out of class and say, you got to call home, or whatever. We did this for years without a phone. So to me, the harm is that you're reducing a child's ability to succeed. And so having a ban like that makes sense to me.
Right. Like I said, deep down inside, I say a yes because it's it's distracting, and not just in the classroom setting. Even there, let's just play even more on the broad setting. Crossing the street,
right.
being glued to that phone, watching something funny on YouTube.
Right.
Wham! The
Right.
car hits the person.
Right.
Look, I'm for penalizing drivers who get distracted with the screens. By the way, I'm like draconic on that one. I said, oh yeah, that person must get the penalty and then some more because that idiot decided to get distracted with the smartphone while driving, knowing he and she could potentially kill someone for being irresponsible. So that one, I'm draconic. I don't even care. I'm radical, far left or far. I don't even care what position it is. I'm for it because people need to be responsible. Responsibility. Well, freedom comes with responsibility. Yeah, go ahead.
Regulation to prevent harm is something I've seen. Phones that have the ability to say, "Oh, I see that you're driving," when they turn off. They just don't. They just turn off until you're done driving. Which is a great thing. Then you're just not distracted at all by it. Because I can't even listen. I can't even listen to the radio when I drive. That's how picky I am about my ability to focus. So, and that's a little too much for most people. But you can set, again, if your goal is to prevent harm, you can set really good rules to prevent the harm. And you're not preventing them from having a phone. You're preventing them from potentially harming somebody while using a phone in a car, which is a very different thing.
I should use that approach to say, yeah, but that's the way I'm going about it, even with the school thing. For me, some of them have already done it, and some schools have already done it, and I personally think it's a good thing. I don't care about the kids, going through their hissy fits. That's their problem. They are too addicted to that thing, and they need to learn how to talk with others because we are social beings. That's another thing that animals have their socializing, but they do it just for the core purpose of survival. That's it. You survive or die. While us, we do it for more than that. Of course, this is to survive, but it's also to, share ideas about friendships and all.
Well, we are super collaborators. Our greatest ability is our ability to communicate. And when we can communicate, we can collaborate. So communication is really key to human survival. And the way we collaborate and the way we do ideas is how we get resources. That's how we get our jobs, right? So what we really are saying is we want kids to maximize their opportunities of learning so that they can get a good job when they get out, when they can have a good, satisfying life when they get out of school and go become an adult on their own. That should be the goal of our government, and it should be the goal of there's all kinds of this in nature. I call them the coordinating mechanisms, but in a family, your parents are the coordinators. In an institution, the management is the coordinator. And in your state, whether it's a state or a federal government, it's the government that's the coordinator. And if each of these have in mind that children, you should maximize the choices and minimize the harm of your citizenry, whatever that is, then I think we'll be better off. And that's what I'm trying to show people and show them what that practically looks like.
Oh, yeah, and people, I don't care if you like her or not, to be honest. I hope you do though. If I'm gonna be quite honest, I'm just gonna speak more from the heart. I hope you do because she spread some good ideas. And come on, I promise to bring more female or women guests. I've been doing that. I'm filling that, bringing more really be real diversity, not just talk diversity. I'm tired of that. Just talk
Oh,
diversity and just not even
right.
follow through. I'm trying to be real diverse. I've been diverse, I could say, practically since I was as young as I could practically remember. Probably in middle
Mm-hmm.
school, I started realizing that you know, racism was a very, very dumb idea. I could just stand on
Mm-hmm.
that proudly, no problem. I don't care if a person try to justify racism as a dumb idea. So like I don't care if you're
Well, I
white,
think you
black.
hit it.
Yeah.
It's an idea. It's an idea that people have accepted that is not valid in any way. Nature has no need for racism, and it doesn't exist in nature. It's a human constructed idea that has done nothing but fracture and divide and hurt people, and it needs to stop. But how do we do it? We do it by treating all people as humans, all people as having the right to maximize their choices and minimize harm. And I think one of the things we have to really face right now is there's such a huge inequality of opportunity that we as the government should address. And that means that people who have, I am tired of reading these things that says, well, based on the zip code you're born in, that will tell you how much money you're going to make. Well, that just means our system is broken. You know, we need to put money into these areas where if there's not safe housing, we need to make safe housing. Where there's not enough food, we need to provide food. And we need to take the profits from these wealthy corporations and these wealthy individuals and turn it back into making the formative years of our citizens have better opportunities to become the best citizens they can be. And I just think we're out of whack, which means we're going to have to spend some time getting it back into whack. But once we do, I think we can live I think it can be a very peaceful and coexisting society.
Oh,
That
to your
is
point.
probably a little Pollyannish, but there I am.
Uh, I don't care. It's still a good idea, in my opinion. I don't care if it's cheesy, Pollyannish, whatever. People need to hear it. We need to, in some ways, you got to go back because this income widening gap has been going on aggressively for the past over 5 decades. Okay.
Yes.
At least,
Yes.
some of you will even dare say 6 decades. Whatever. The point is, we've been just widening that wealth inequality, and it continues to
Right.
exacerbate. That part is no argument with me there. I totally agree with that. And all real data and people who are honest about it will agree with that. So as instead people say, oh no, these people just dumb and
No.
lazy.
Well, historically, if you look back in the 40s and 50s, the maximum tax rate for corporations at the very highest level was 91%. That's compared to 36% today. So, or 39%, excuse me. But what happened is that high tax rate funded robust education. It funded more money for schools, more money for roads. It funded everything and this huge middle class. And we were stable because we had a huge middle class. In 1986, and I remember when he did it, Ronald Reagan cut the tax rates. It just switched. We became a debtor nation for the first time ever, and people they began to treat businesses as chips that could be traded back and forth because they were just made. It's like, well, this is how you use them to change your tax status and everything. And all of a sudden, not paying your taxes became a good thing. And it's just it that we have gone on that track ever since. And we haven't politically been able to raise taxes again. And partly because those people got so rich that they've bought off all the politicians. They've lobbied all the politicians to not change the rules back. And I think that's one of the things that we should do. And I have a big section of my book about taxation and how it should work. And if a body taxed government, if a body taxed its cells like we tax in this country, the body would be dead. It just doesn't work. It's a bad situation. The way a body works is every cell gives a little bit of its energy up to the brain and says, here's what you need. And the neurons get fed just like everybody else. So nobody ever keeps any excess. If there's excess, every cell gets a little bit of the excess. If there's even more excess, then we start having larger hips or larger waists or heart disease because we're all storing too much stuff. But that nature does not allow some cells to hoard resources and starve other cells in a body. Your body would be dead. But we do that all the time. And the reason why we're seeing so much, I think, disruption in our society is because we have this unnatural state that we're living in, and it is not helpful and not good. I mean, when Walmart hires people and pays them only up to the rate where they can then get SNAP benefits, and they won't pay them more, and they won't give them enough hours to pay them well, because they are basically subsidizing their the 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 money that they could make from the company by the government. How good is that? How socially responsible is that? That's horrible. But that's what they do. So if I were, the government, I'd tax the hell out of Walmart. It's like, you're making all these profits. We'll tax them and we'll send that money back to people who need it.
I'll throw Amazon in there as well because
Oh yeah,
ooh,
Amazon makes it into the book. And she's
oh
called Big Mamazon in the book.
yeah. Oh, you gave a funny name for that one. I
Right,
was not gonna say
right.
anything about that. I was gonna have to find out. I was like, oh, it don't say Amazon. I said, no, figure it out. Figure it out. Be able to create. Use the creative part of your brain.
There you
But
go. There you go.
hey, that was you being creative. I was like at that part. So, okay, this is getting from just good to great. So, okay, that's definitely getting me interesting. They went for put up with this foundation to now it's getting good to
Yeah,
it's all
yeah.
right. Now you're adding the intricate parts that make it enriching now.
Right, right. Well, but those parts would not make sense
Right.
unless you start, because frequently I will go back and say, if nature did this, it would not work because of all these things you now know. And that's why we really have to examine humans, because we're of nature, but we're not just like nature. And so we always have to adjust for the fact that we are going to do things a little bit differently. And that makes it harder. I mean, if we were just animals without a brain, we'd just be in part of the world like everything else, and there would be no difference. But we're not. And we've turned a corner, and now we just haven't dealt with it really well in some cases.
Yep.
So that doesn't mean
Well,
we can't keep trying.
yeah, yeah, and well, that actually just brings up just to the other questions. It's mostly conversation. I think this is probably the most conversational flowing podcast episode, which I actually love. Because
Okay.
I just think it was a lot to talk about. I said, and I don't want to just stifle it with questions and all that. If I don't come with a different style to make it good, I'm gonna go with it.
Okay.
I am not, I'm not praying to the question gods. Oh, give me the best questions. No, I'm just gonna pick whatever
Oh,
style I think is best. I switch it up every now and then
okay.
because I just think, no. I said she could talk. Okay, I know she could talk. I could tell.
Unfortunately, I can.
No, that's good. For the podcast is amazing. The whole no, for the podcast is great. Um, maybe other environments, maybe, but I'm not in your life. That part's none of my business. It's not harming me, so I'm just gonna mind my
Fair
own
enough.
right there. I'm just gonna mind no comment, no judgment, no opinion, right there. So now, so the question is, do you really think it's hope for humanity to change, or we're just going to be obliterated with the idea sphere, just go back to nature?
That is such a good question. Of course, the Pollyanna in me says, of course we can learn this. The practical side of me says I think what will happen is we will continue on this route of being a double-edged sword, and I think we will have a lot of big problems in the future. I think we will destroy our climate to a point where many, many, many people will die, and I think we will be left with a smaller subset of human beings. You know, at one point in the Earth's history, a long, long, long time ago, I think humans got down to like 2 or 3 thousand people on one island somewhere, and that was it. But they managed to survive and come all the way back. So I I just don't see people really understanding the change that needs to be done and understanding that we can make the world a better place. I think there's just so much of a mindset of, I want mine, I want more, I want, I don't care if there's pollution, I don't care if all the plankton dies and then we end up dying too. I think that that's just a very short sighted view because people are worried about their job and feeding the kids and all the other things, and I get it. But I think we really, if we're going to have a chance, we need to make some big changes, and they don't have to be big. They have to be mindset changes first. You have to have a vision of where you want to go. I think a lot of the problems today is everybody's talking about, well, this policy or this policy. We have to change our mindset to be one of more tolerant of each other and tolerant of the other living things on this earth, and figure out how to work with that and become part of the earth and not trying to dominate it so much. And I don't know that we will. I hope we do, but I'm not I'm not as optimistic as I wish I were. Let me put it that way.
Well, no worry, you join the doom and gloom club with me. Because I just think this is why I think it's going to happen. It is actually pretty similar to yours. I think we could hit a point that we just hit to, I don't know, you already said 2 or 3 thousand people. Probably I'm just probably a little more slightly optimistic, which I'm shocked. Maybe we have about 1,200 breedable pairs, and then we're gonna reset, and then we're gonna do a but I just think humanity needs a lesson because we, I'm more of a spiritualist, not exactly religion. I think religion is like the bad version, the control manipulative version of it, but you talk about that in your
Mm-hmm.
book. It's an idea sphere, and I think religion has been overly what's the word? Marketable, let's just say, and
Mm-hmm.
manipulated, which
Well,
is a
it's been an idea
controversial
that's
opinion.
been accepted for a long time,
Yeah.
and we train our children young, and so it hasn't died out.
No, it's not going to die anytime soon, too, the way it's going. I mean, even though
Yeah.
I'm not an atheist either, because I think that's just too arrogant. But, to each his own. Hey, I'm not going to hate you if you're atheist or you believe in, I don't know, the purple elephant god, whatever. It's your choice.
I
So
just
it's
think
not
it's
harm
above
neighbor.
my pay grade. I mean, when you talk about energy and the universe, there's so much we don't know. There's so much. We as humans and living on this earth, we are designed to be on this earth. I mean, we have eyes that see this particular sun's light. We have ears that pick up the sounds of this earth. Outside, we just don't know. And so rather than worry about it, I accept what it is out there, but I'm not going to, I don't know. I don't have enough information to know. So I just leave it out there for its own. I think it can take care of itself.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. Is that opinion harming you,
Well,
trolls?
again,
No, I'm not.
no.
I'm talking to the viewers here. Is it harming you? Her opinions, her
Oh,
idea
oh,
sphere is harming you.
I don't think it can harm people all if they don't if they don't like. See, there's a difference between harm is like a physical. damage or reputational damage or financial damage. If you just don't like something, that's just an opinion. And, we just deal with it. We're like, okay, you don't have to agree. That's okay. It's
Oh
so
yeah.
fine. It is okay for people to have opinions that differ.
Oh, of course, of course. That's what rational human being would say. But a communist dictator, on the other hand, no, okay, oh yeah, idea differs, you're gonna die.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, those are, again,
And then you
communist dictatorships are things that are forms of government that are there to keep the state surviving, not the people. And that's why the difference in democracy is for the good of the people. And a communist government or an authoritarian government is for the good of the state. And that is never going to work. That doesn't work.
Yep.
It'll
And
never
I'm going to
work.
quote you, at least loosely, and paraphrasing it. What nature would choose democracy. Yeah.
Yes, yes, nature has chosen democracy in that all your cells work together to keep every cell alive, which is democracy, and to keep the society or the body alive. That's the definition of democracy. The only difference is they don't vote. They just do it. And the difference we had is you look at our history, it's taken us a long time, thousands of years, to get to where democracy was a concept. And even now, people are like, well, that's not really that normal of a thing. It's actually the most natural one. It's just an idea that took a long time to bubble up because kings and authoritarian rulers were the norm back in the day when strength ruled rather than ideas.
And royal DNAs, which is
Yeah,
another idea
there you go.
concept. Yeah.
There you go.
And then I put that in quotes because, they have a DNA. I put the royal label because, they're the chosen ones. They
Right,
are the
right,
rule. And
right.
that said that I'm happy that America doesn't have that kind of thing. Just imagine, rather it was a Clinton or the Trump family just keep ruling. Oh, okay, let's make an offspring so we can keep on ruling this country. America would have been falling apart very, very
Well,
quickly.
yeah, yeah. That's not a democracy, and that's the thing is
Yeah.
our democracy is based on our choice to be a democracy. It's the superpower of choice. Election is like the major superpower of choice that we have to choose our leaders. What's interesting now is we have this such a dichotomy where you have people who are choosing on one hand, you know, um, a person who's is more on the authoritarian side and a person who's more on the, you know, I would say more of the traditional democracy side. And to me, it doesn't seem like it should be close. But I think the fact that I think underlying this is that people assume our democracy is solid, that it exists like a foundation in the ground that will be there even if you change to a more authoritarian person. And it's not. It doesn't. It's not that stable. It's based on the people who make their choices every day. And I just think that, I mean, it's just really interesting to me how that's going to, how it's going to play out.
Well, let's hope the checks and balances really take care of that. That's all I'm going to say
Right.
because, this is the problem with so many people. And I have to start correcting them, even just open my mouth. The president has a lot of power, but doesn't have all the power. There's
That's
checks
true.
and balances. There's a Supreme
Right.
Court that stops the president for doing some things. There's a Senate and the House that
Yes.
could go
You're right.
against the president, and
Right.
there's even that kind of government at the state level and local level as well. That's why I'm against one party having a supermajority because I think that's how checks and balances withers down.
Right.
I don't care if it's Democrat or Republican. I
Right.
believe in the balanced government. Either it's a 49-51 or 55-45. It's low and balanced, fine. They could fight for that.
Mm-hmm.
That could change between both parties.
Mm-hmm.
But we have something like an 80-20, 90-10. No,
Right.
that's a problem. And I could criticize New York City government. That thing is easily 85% Democrat and 15% Republican. No, there's an imbalance there.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and what
Yeah.
happens when you have that imbalance is again, that's where the 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 advantages of competition, of innovation and diversity, they go away because you have one party not competing, so they don't have to be answerable to anybody. That doesn't work. So you make a really valid point that having that a balancing checkpoint is really important. I think some of our systems, some of our structures are a little bit. I think I advocate for what I call the evaluation branch, which is a new branch where I think that we really need to examine our government and determine whether they're actually following the Constitution. We don't right now, we don't do that very often unless somebody brings up something and says this is unconstitutional and the justice system decides to take it up. But let's say, you make a law that says it's okay to discriminate against Black people. And we've had laws on the books that do this. We don't have any way to look back and say, to evaluate the government's actions and say, no, you're not following the Constitution. And that's something I think we're missing. And I think our founding fathers didn't even think we needed that because we were all on the same page. And I think that's something we need today that we didn't need 250 years ago.
I just think it's lack of education that eventually causes deterioration. I mean, you come with the best plan ever because, ideasphere as unstable and chaotic. I like the word chaotic. It is chaotic because bad ideas could flourish, unfortunately, because just like you said, it has to be accepted among the masses. That's all it takes.
Right.
Okay, I think women should stay home, cook, take care of the kid. That's just as an example. Okay, majority of men agrees. Even some of the women, they agree. Yeah, let's put even the women in there. They agree. Okay, 70-30. The only one that objected was a few men and, of course, majority of the women. Okay, that's been accepted. Okay, women stay home. Okay, let's discriminate against Latino people. Okay, all the other races raise their hands up. This is hypothetical, of course. This is not real. Thank goodness this is not real. This is, this is just very, very silly fiction.
I mean, that's how we got some Jim Crow laws in the South after the Civil War. We said, oh, well, we have to do this. Okay, we'll put poll taxes in and we'll do this so that people can't vote and we won't do this. And nobody said, well, there wasn't a vehicle by which we could say that's not constitutional. And we need a branch that's actually, I think, focused on, again, constitutionality. When you asked that, you said, okay, women have to stay home and raise the kids. My poor kids would die because I can't cook, but that's a different story. But again, if the goal of your country is to maximize choice and minimize harm, then that law doesn't meet the bill. It doesn't meet the requirement because you're minimizing the choice or narrowing the choice of some people, the women, and you can't do it. That's why this kind of mindset is so important, is because it allows you to say, wait a second, where is the choice? Where is the harm? What are we doing here? You can't do that.
Yeah, make sure the evaluation board is very independent as well. Let's just be absolutely clear, because I don't want partisanship. The D and the R's, even certain I's, because certain I's are very deceiving. No, just make sure it's nonpartisan.
Well, I think it should be a lottery of citizens, and they have a job where they're trained for like jury duty, but it's a 5-year job, and they have 1 year of training on what it means to be constitutional, and then they have a 5-year job, and it rolls over every couple of years. You have different people come on the board and off, but it needs to be a citizen run, or a citizen kind of position that is not subject to any partisan nature, because it won't work. It won't work that way.
And if it is partisan, it's going to have to represent all kinds of political viewpoints. If they insist on that, that's the alternative route to this. And nope, you're going to need a Democrat, you're going to need a Republican, you're going to need independents, you're going to need people, the moderates of either side, whatever you have, even the Green Party, even Libertarian, I even throw them in there if you could find them. I say case by case, because because I think partisanship has done a lot of damage to this country, and definitely ignorance of civics has done a lot of damage to this country.
I think I agree with you.
Well.
I agree with you.
I don't care if you
Yeah.
lean left or right. It's not about that. It's about saving America.
Right. Right.
And I'll go further than the so-called Republican Party on that one. Yeah, and I even go 1A even more than them as well, because they try to push a bill that's gonna make what essentially Jewish people like the supreme privileged group. I said, no, that means you're putting everybody else down. No.
Yeah.
There's already hate crimes, which I'm fine with.
Uh-huh.
Say, oh, this person was, motivated by anti-Semitism, racism,
Right.
sexism, all the other
Right.
isms
Right.
that you could think of. Okay, I'm fine with that. In the beginning, those a little ridiculous, but it is needed because there's still sadly people that carry racism as if it's a indisputable fact.
Right.
And we
Oh
come
yeah.
on, as evolved, intelligent people like we are here. Yes, I'm going to brag
Mm-hmm.
about us here. We know racism is a stupid, obsolete idea, but
Uh-huh.
sad there are fringe people that believe in it like it is
There are people
irresistible.
who accept this idea. And as long as there are people who accept the idea and they, again, we have to assess whether we need to create laws that prevent harm from people who think that it's okay to act on a racist belief and harm somebody. That's not okay. It's just not okay. So that's where you draw the line. It's your government is there to make sure your citizens aren't harmed. All citizens, not some, all.
Oh, yes, exactly. I could have said it better myself. All right, to be honest, we could easily go for hours on
I
this.
think we could.
Listeners, I think you got enough, because we're just scratching a little bit of the ground here, okay?
Right.
So,
Right.
listeners and viewers, get that book, okay? I command you. Yes, I command you. I don't care. I don't care if
Right. Well,
that's
it comes
considered
out
offensive.
November 19th, The Human Idea, and it's going to be everywhere. You can get it, of course, on Amazon, but at most local stores or wherever. I'd love it if you got it. And if you drop me a note, I have a website called thehumanidea.com. Drop me a note and tell me what you think. I'd love your input, good or bad. It really does help me to understand where people are coming from. That's really important to me.
And this is why I don't see it a lot of sites. I think more sites need to do is fill that survey out too. Give some
Yeah.
input. Give some
Yeah.
input on what you think.
Yeah.
Is Anne optimistic? Is Anne crazy? Or she's onto something, or she's brilliant. Put whatever
Yeah.
opinion you have in there. Okay.
Yeah.
So far I think she's great. Okay, that's just
Oh,
my host opinion of
thank you.
me, and I'm just being very, very, of course, authentic when I say that, because it's just been a great conversation. I even got a better idea about how to educate the young to teenagehood about learning life and
Okay.
stuff. See,
Good.
that's a mold right there that I was open to, because it was at a preliminary stage, and now I say it's more the mature stages. It's actually
Right.
getting there. You
Right.
see, that's why it's good
Oh,
to talk to
that's
different
good.
people. Some people could
Right.
strengthen the ideas, your own ideas. I was like, oh, this
Well,
is a good idea. You got the
yeah.
foundation, but sometimes you need, like the little details, the designs, or
Yeah.
extra accessories,
Uh,
just to make it pop,
Right. Well,
attractive, and coherent.
one of my hopes is that people who are real experts in their fields can use this mindset of maximizing choice and minimizing harm to come up with better solutions in their fields, whether you're in police work or social work or homelessness or whatever. I think that there are people, if you use this sort of mindset of how do we maximize choice and minimize harm? How do we make this work? I would love to hear what those people have to say using this mindset, because they're the experts. They're the ones who have the solutions, and they're the ones that I would love to hear from, and see how they would make the world a better place given this idea of the idea
Yep, because she's calling all kinds of experts. Come on, you can't be more inclusive than this. You can't be more inclusive than this, okay? Look, she's asking for police workers, psychiatrists. Who knows? Even bankers. Yes, you bankers should be
Yeah.
criticized, but come on in.
Well, I
You
was a
know,
banker once, so I get it. I know.
pharmacists. Yeah, she does a lot of jobs. So
Yeah.
She even dealt, with factory work, which, is normally very male dominated. I think still male dominated for the most part.
Right.
It's very hands on, and, you got to grind and be dirty in the most, in literal and even metaphorical concepts to get the work done. Okay.
Right.
So
Right.
she's done a bunch of jobs. She's not just here, she may look like a Karen stereotype, wants to stay home and cook and all that, but no, you'll be dead wrong. She would debunk that immediately. You'll be
Yes.
debunked. It has your
Yes.
own bad idea sphere, using that to judge her. Okay.
Right. I do have a part of my book where I talk about the pie story. In my fiction book, the protagonist Sarah admits to being a bad cook, which was sort of an autobiographical part, and they talk about cooking and it's very funny, I think, but because mostly it was because, oh yeah, I'm a bad cook. So
Look, she has a sense of humor too. So there you go. That's a plus right there. That's a plus in this podcast. We don't need, I don't mind insulting myself, it's just for fun. Cause look, if you have great self esteem, you just tickle and laugh. And like I said, this is not her first book at all. Okay, this is an upcoming book, and then they got of course we were just referring to this a little bit. The Ancient Case for Democracy, Dina. Oh, that's a nice
yeah.
name. Oh
Yeah,
wow.
that's the fiction one with all the humor in it, and that one sort of has a Socratic dialogue of this theory, and I think that's actually, from what I've seen, is women like that book better, and men like the nonfiction, the Human Idea book better. From just my short kind of survey of responses, that's what I've seen the most.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be supporting that survey even more because it has been true too. When they track what men tend to read, we tend to be more nonfiction stuff, like the romance in the fairy tales. Not saying women are crazy,
Yeah,
you know. A few of you are okay. A few of you are. I
yeah,
don't care, but
yeah.
women gravitate towards more the romance and the fiction
Or just the
stuff.
story, just the
Yeah,
stories. They want to know what happened to a character. Um, and so
yeah.
that's
Women do
exactly
have
what
that
happened.
insatiable curiosity, especially that
Yeah.
particular
Yeah.
curiosity.
So it was like women were like, I want to find out what happens to the character. And the men were like, just get to the theory. It was like, oh, I
Yeah,
need to write you a new book. So,
yeah. No, yeah, that's definitely. Yeah, I'm definitely a stereotypical male on that. Even at times when I read it again, maybe the feminists are kicking. I really want to know what happened to this character. That got all the details right. So what do you mean by this reference and all that? But yeah, for the most part, I will support the gender stereotype when it comes to
it's
the
okay.
the book.
I just want the idea out there, so I did one for everybody.
Hey, you pay attention to your audience, right? So
There you go.
that's the point. So
There you go.
rather you're a male, female author doesn't matter. As long as you're sensitive towards your audience,
Hmm.
you're gonna be successful. If you just say, forget the men, I was gonna write for women, it's fine. Just make sure you're really marketing aggressively oriented towards that. It's okay.
Right.
This niche is everyone. If you want to cater towards a
Right.
certain, I don't know, even if I'm gonna go even extra niche, middle-aged women. Okay, well, you get rid of stuff that young women would like.
Right.
Okay, things like that. It's fine, but I think to me a broad appeal brings you to quicker success. That's at least my opinion. I'm not an expert, so you can feel free to dunk on me. I'll be okay because I know my
No dunking
place.
required. I like the input. It's really important. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh no, I'm talking just for me, just for me. I can handle it. Um, But yeah, see, so you just gotta. So she got something for you. She got something for you, men and women, and that's thing I gotta pay attention to. Mine's a little more male dominated, but I'm happy that more women are paying attention because I'm intending this to be, I don't know, a frat boy podcast with all the crude humor.
Well,
Even though I
if
enjoy
it
crude
is,
humor.
I just ruined your whole credibility just because this was not frat boy. This was not frat
Oh,
boy
that's
conversation.
fine. That's perfectly fine. I was aware of the risk. There was no risk for me. I just said I want to bring more women on because I'm not making this into a frat boy. I don't know, crude humor, sexual jokes,
Mm.
all that crazy stuff, or
Well,
or
you've been
just
a
extra.
delightful host. You've
Yeah.
been a really delightful host. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no. I'm just trying to get to ideas how to heal America. That's my point.
Yeah.
And this is
Yeah.
that, I think this is one idea how to do it, and I'm open to more ideas as
Hmm.
well. It doesn't have to be the only one, but I think if a lot of work
Sure.
together in some kind of miraculous unison, great.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
me and Ann were crazy for having a doom and gloom perspective, and I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong. Being
Me
wrong is good in this
too.
situation. Okay,
Me too.
so
I really want to be wrong about that. And I am starting to see this sort of upswell of there's a lot of people talking about coexistence and natural sustainability and a lot of things going in this direction. I just don't know, as things, how a movement happens is it gets to a tipping point and then, oh, everybody sort of is like, oh yeah, that's the thing to do. And the question is, when is the tipping point going to come? I think it will come. I'm just not sure when and if it will be too late in the process. Humans tend to be very late about things that are hard, that they don't want to do or they don't want to face. And I think that is very typical in this situation. Because I mean, when I was a kid, I remember learning about global warming and climate change when I was little. So, oops, excuse me. Oops, thank you. Sorry, I turned on my Siri for some reason. Um, but uh, I've known about climate change since I've been 10 years old, and I'm 65 now. So this is not something we've been doing. We are getting more and more aware, but this is the amount of awareness I had when I was 10. So I'm a little disappointed that we're not moving faster and being more responsible about this.
I think that's definitely a valid concern for sure. Because of course, I learn about. I mean, of course, of course, I'm like practically half your age, but I learned about this when I was like 6 or 7. But we treat it as, oh, gotta protect the earth, do all this. They made it more kid friendly and all that. And of course, as you
Right,
go older, they got to the whole climate change, the catastrophe,
right.
and all those
And that's a good thing
consequences.
to do when you're a 6 year old. The problem
Yeah,
is when you're 36, it's time for us to make some big changes, and we're still treating it like it's a educational problem and not an actual problem.
yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, now it's just education. Yeah, because like, I mean, me, I ain't gonna lie, I didn't really care. If you talk to me as a teenager about climate change, I would have just said, "It's leave me alone. I don't care."
Right,
But as
right,
I got older, started thinking about, honestly, we need to take care of this because we could all
right,
potentially die if we don't get
right,
this
right,
together. If we don't get this
right,
we don't get our act together. Okay,
right.
we could
And
die.
it,
We
it
could die.
requires political courage of adults who have learned these things. And we don't have that political courage today. Nobody has it. I
Yeah,
mean, I think this Biden administration did some stuff which was good, but this is a worldwide problem. We need to get the world together. And I think the world, the Kyoto Treaty and all these things, we've really tried hard, but not very, in the sense that the United States is still polluting and China is still polluting at the levels that are just unsustainable for human life and in 100 years. So what? Maybe we should get going on this, guys, but it hasn't happened yet.
yeah, we should have got going with this decades ago. If I'm going to be brutally honest,
Hmm.
decades ago, we would have been, clean energy would have been the norm by now.
Right,
If we were
right.
really, really serious about it. And I think markets should be friendly towards it. I like the governments. I think they're a start, but definitely have markets push for clean energy, all this other
Hmm.
stuff. It
Hmm.
is possible we can't do it. It's just it's
Right,
just political courage, and just people courage. Forget just politics. Let's
right,
just have the people do it. Because I
right,
think if you make it political, and of course you're gonna get like one group's like, "Oh, this is just a green
right,
scam. They
right,
want to make this green problem by taking your other green, the green you work hard for, And
right. But as long as gas and oil are cheap and people are geared towards profit maximization, they won't do it. They won't do it because it's expensive to make the turn, but it will save lives in the end. But we have to make that work. And that means that something besides profit needs to step in the way of the priority system. And that is something that we just are not doing. We're not making it happen. That's the only group that can do that is the government, who can come in and say, oh, no, if you use solar power, we will give you this benefit, or we will not, if you use gas and oil, we'll tax you up the wazoo, and that's just the way it's going to be. And so change. But we don't do that. We don't do that.
Yeah, corporations are such a big obstacle that we have to deal with. Corporations definitely are such a big obstacle. That's a
Right.
lot of them bringing up to it.
Right.
And, and it's not about being left or right. It's just we got to see the problem for what it is. And
Mm-hmm.
hopefully, God willing, more politicians were brave. I don't care if you lean R or D. It doesn't matter. Just start going after. There's some Republicans that can't stand corporations. Some Democrats that can't stand them either. They coalesce, start pushing back against it, get rid of money, especially dark money out of politics. That's one of the few things I agree progressive
Well,
with in general.
I do believe that all institutional money should be out of politics completely. And even private money should be limited to like $10,000 a person, and that's it. And none of these big, and none of this outside the government, outside the election, none of these PACs, nothing. It's like, if your body ran that way, you'd be dead. If it's not like the heart cell goes over to the brain and says, hey, pump some good blood my way so that I can, be better, or the heart, I guess it would be the other way. It's in the heart would say, brain, give me this good blood and then I'll give you such great ideas. No, you'd be dead, because the kidney's over there not getting the stuff he needs. And so you're dead. But we do that all the time. We have companies go in and say, give us the law we need. And they pollute, or they make all kinds of problems occur, and they get away with it, and it's legal, and that is the wrong way to do it. And that's where government has been infected by money in elections and money in government, and they should all be gone. And that doesn't mean you don't get feedback from these companies, because you need to know what works and what doesn't. But what you don't do is send resources to the government. The government is ruled by one thing, and that is whether they do the good of the people or not. And if they don't do the good of the people, they should be voted out. And if they do, they get to stay in. But that's a very, very strong part of my book. Talks about.
But I'll add reasonable term limits as well, because we need fresh ideas after a while. Like for example, this politician was great in the 80s, but the 90s is a different era. Right. Okay, we need some new. Of course, keep some of the ones that have done great, just to make sure they're not going too crazy. Things like that. Find a balance. Find a balance.
The question is the reasonable nature. In Oregon, we had a term limit law where after 3 terms, the representatives had to leave. And what happened is it just became a free-for-all of people who didn't know anything about government. And it was like, what happened? So reasonable means, I think that your point about it being a reasonable term limit, you want to keep enough institutional knowledge and how things work, so that at least it works. But you still need the new ideas to come in, and people to say, oh, we got to do things a different way. So I agree with you, but it needs to be really carefully done.
No, I agree. I'm a big fan of incremental change.
Right. Me too.
Except for energy, I think that thing we need to, speed that up as soon as possible, with the exception of energy and things like that, because it's become a big problem. But in terms of government, incremental change is for the best.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just not gonna say, okay, throw out all the 60-plus-year-olds. No,
exactly.
You need to keep some of the 60-plus-year-olds, especially those who could still do the job and still, have the will of the people in mind and heart.
Right.
And then definitely, we need some of the young, some middle age, some, just make sure the House representative is really the House representatives.
Right.
Not, overrepresenting one population and, you're distorting a bunch of policies, and you want to push, okay, you want a law for cows? Okay, only one person wants that, but yet the politician represents that one rich person for cow. Okay, cow protection. You cannot kill the cow. Oh, you're starving to death? Oh, well, go get something else to eat. things like that. Okay, because that billionaire fund that politician to protect the cows, so the rich person can gather all the cows for himself and the family. You see, like something like that. Oh, I just came with an example on the fly, but you don't
Okay.
want something like that.
Okay. Right.
Something like that.
Right.
That's crazy. You want something that could benefit, as much people as possible.
Right.
That's
Right.
it. I mean, I could keep
Exactly.
going on. I mean, we talk so much good stuff, so much,
It was
you know.
really fun.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I enjoyed it too. Before we wrap this up, anything else you want to add?
No, just that, what I want people to come away with is this idea that you can live your life this way of maximizing your choice and minimizing harm to others in your personal life. And I live this way, and it's just so much easier to live this way. It's just an easier, happier life. And I think that if you see it work inside your life, it's not hard to find, to start advocating for institutions to work this way and governments to work this way. So I encourage people to try it. It's a very easy concept, and it. I've been very surprised at how much better, more quality, how much more of a positive quality there is in my life because of this attitude.
And really take that to heart, people, because that's the kind of people I want. Maximizing rights, and ideally, I will say, of course, pragmatically limit harm to strictest thing, with the exception of
Right,
self-defense and all that
right,
craziness. But don't harm others. Okay,
right,
just
right,
be responsible. You're better than that. Okay, now let me be
right.
the encouraging, responsible adult here, instead of bashing you and encourage you to express your venom and anger, which is okay. You get out of your system, but you're also going to
Sure.
be criticized for it,
Yeah,
listeners and viewers, because you put your opinion out there. Once you put it out
yeah.
there, it's open to praise and criticism.
Exactly, exactly. And that's why, you do it. I mean, I do it. And I want actually to hear what people have to say. But if somebody's going to personally attack me, then it's like, well, that just doesn't help me because I don't know what to do with that. So it's not going to change how I live my life. But, but thank you for sharing, I guess.
Well, what a good therapy session for that person. God
Right.
help you. Yes, I'm gonna say like that. God help you. Anyways, you know what they say. If you don't have naysayers, that means you ain't doing much. But if you got
Right.
naysayers and some haters, you're doing the right thing. You're
Right.
roughing some
Well, and I
feathers.
don't
Yeah.
expect people to agree, especially because this idea seems kind of unusual for people. They get kind of caught off guard with it a little bit. And to me, it seems very natural once I figured it out, but it wasn't easy to figure out. So I get there's a leap that people have to they have to cross a bridge someplace and go, oh, maybe that is a way to look at things. And that's hard. And if you want to, great. If you don't want to, okay, that's okay too.
Yep. All righty, for my tough and resilient listeners and viewers. You've been through this audio conversation, and of course, just to placate to your haters a bit, onslaught, right? So, so all I'm gonna say is this, right? You leave a review, you share, like, subscribe. So, from wherever you're listening or watching this podcast, you have a blessed day, afternoon, or night.
It's great. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this.